You know, I'm wondering in today's society if another giant, white, attention-seeking, rage-loaded ape is really what we need. What's really funny about that joke is how many of you can't actually narrow down who I'm referencing. While we don't need any more screen time for giant apes to gibber at one another, there are two things we seemingly can't get enough of. That is Dwayne Johnson and video game movie adaptations. So much so, we've had 2 video game inspired movies starring The Rock in the last 4 months. It's really strange, this little video game renaissance that we're going through, with Jumanji and Tomb Raider doing probably better than expected, with Wreck-It Ralph 2 just around the corner. It seems like we're just starting to get things right. But I do mean just starting to get things right. It is in its infancy and we have a long way to go. And I will reiterate something I said in my Tomb Raider review. It is a very delicate balance to properly adapt a video game to a film. You do too much and the adaptation strays too far from the original source material. You do too little and, well, let's face it, they never do too little. I hate to repeat myself, but I'll say something else from my Tomb Raider review. You have to consider the source material. Take Mario Brothers, for example. That is damn near impossible to adapt into a film because the premise is plumbers who squash little mushrooms with feet and shoot fireballs at turtles. God, that is a weird concept. You know what else is weird? Trying to do an adaptation of Rampage. Rampage was one of my favorite old school games, but much like its 8-bit brother Mario, it's very simple and it's very repetitive. You choose a monster, you climb buildings, you smash stuff, you eat humans, wash, rinse, repeat. The backstory to this video game, if you can call it that, is just as simple. These 3 humans are turned into these giant monsters because of the evil scum labs for various reasons. They have to smash the city to rubble, and that's, like I said, pretty much it. So how do you adapt that into an hour-and-a-half long film? Step 1, don't do what Dwayne did. No, of course, he didn't write it. That goes to Ryan Engle and Carlton Cuse, and guess what? They broke the cardinal rule when it comes to video game adaptations. Don't add too much. If you add too much, by the time that final draft of the screenplay rolls around, you are dancing in an elevator with pin-headed nightmare puppets. Unnecessary add-on, the first. Almost all of the human characters. Now, I'll tell you why I think that and why Rampage was really in a no-win situation. Because at the heart of things, it's a kaiju movie, which is actually one of the things that worked for it. And one thing I mentioned in my Tomb Raider review that actually works for a video game-inspired movie. It's a pre-established genre. If you go to see Rampage for giant monsters wreaking havoc, then you get it, and it's pretty good. But let me ask you something. When you go to see a King Kong movie, do you care about anybody other than the title ape? When you go to see a Godzilla film, do you care about anybody running around on the ground? This might sound harsh because I do love the guys wrestling, but I didn't care for The Rock. I didn't care for his ridiculously talented yet severely underused co-star, Naomi Harris. I didn't care for their forced backstory, my favorite of which being The Rock's backstory, a soldier turned primatologist who learned sign language to befriend an albino ape. Dwayne, can I call you Dwayne? Mr. Johnson, I know you've talked about running for president before, and that character seems like the perfect candidate. But if you really wanted to nail it, you wouldn't make it a white ape. Typical Hollywood. While Johnson gets away with his character because he's large and charming, like some of the other Johnsons we know, and Harris gets away with things because that woman deserves a paycheck, I cannot forgive any of the other characters. They are caricatures. The goofy brother, the bumbling sidekick, the evil corporate bitch, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. You know, that character that leans back, says something whimsically crude. I've only done this once or twice before in my reviews, but if you bear with me, I'll let you know how I would have fixed this film. How do you make the audience care for the humans? How do you still make it a kick-ass kaiju movie? And how do you justify having the talented character actors like The Rock, Naomi Harris, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan? You'd be surprised how easily you can adapt that premise and make it a much more effective film. So, if you'll indulge me. Like I had mentioned before, the video game's backstory is about how 3 people are mutated into these giant creatures by the evil scum labs for one reason or another. But the movie already had a version of that. They had the Wyden siblings in charge of Energyne and Project Rampage and weaponizing mutated animal DNA because screenwriters seemingly can't think of anything else. But what if one failed writer turned high school teacher did think of something else? What if Energyne used humans instead of animals? What if they weaponized this mutated animal DNA within these 3 pretty good character actors? What if they played Lizzie, Ralph, and George? Or if you find turning the Rock into the ape is a little bit racially insensitive, then he can be the werewolf. But I'm telling you, JDM would make a good werewolf. God damn, I am a werewolf. Keep the human element in the monsters. That's how you make the audience care about not only the monsters, but the humans as well. You keep the struggle as an internal one. It's a primordial story, but we've seen modern examples in the Hulk and Being Human. This would not only give them a journey, but it could actually give the film a goal rather than just an ending. These human characters could try and seek a cure, which could take them city to city. And of course, one or more of them could, you guessed it, transform and destroy that city. And if you keep some of the other aspects they already had in the film, you can actually still make it a much more layered film. Keep Johnson's character as an ex-soldier. Keep Harris's character as somebody who's lost her brother. Can you imagine the subtext of a soldier coming home and trying to control his anger or his PTSD? And a giant rage monster comes out? Now, for those of you who say, well, that's stupid, you gotta think of all the stupid they've already added to this film when they could have just kept it simple and effective, like the monsters having mutated animal DNA aside from them already being mutated animals. So Lizzie has those lizard gills, Ralph can shoot porcupine quills and fly. What did that add? And why, in the movie, does the internet name the wolf Ralph? You're telling me no one on the internet could be more creative when naming a giant wolf like Hujo, Rin Tun Tun, or the Wolf of Tall Street? You know, I have to admit, as much as I like my screenwriting suggestions for this film, I'm very proud of Wolf of Tall Street. But anyways, if you want to go see a kaiju movie, it's a great half hour. If you, like me, want to see a movie with a beginning, middle, and end, and maybe 3 acts, then Rampage is not for you. It is a burn it. Poll question, what direction, left or right, do you enjoy when Jeffrey Dean Morgan leans? As always, leave your answers in the comment section below. But until next time, school's out. Hey Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.